Under the black sky of the galaxy, far beyond the bright cities of the alien empires, there were creatures that even the strongest armies feared. They were not simple hunters. They were nightmares given flesh. Their bodies were built for killing. Their minds sharp with ancient instincts. Wherever they walked, silence followed, because nothing dared to challenge them. These were the galaxy's deadliest predators. They came in many shapes, some with long claws that could slice through metal, some with jaws wide enough to crush ships. Others could blend into the shadows and strike before anyone could even scream. They ruled the wild worlds, and even advanced civilizations chose to stay away. When these beasts arrived, cities were abandoned, and planets were left to rot. Stories about them spread across the stars like ghost tales. Merchants whispered their names in fear. Soldiers pretended bravery but prayed never to face them. It was said that no creature in the galaxy could stand in front of them. No empire, no technology, no weapon. They were pure dominance, a force of nature, and all who lived under the stars accepted this truth. But something strange was happening. A path of destruction was leading toward a small colony on the edge of human space. The predators had been spotted near those systems, and fear spread faster than fire. Alien allies warned the humans to flee. They begged them to abandon their settlements. One alien commander even said, "If you stay, your bones will decorate their nests." But the humans did not run. Instead, they watched calm and steady. Their colonies were small, their weapons not as advanced as the great empires. Yet they chose to stay. Farmers carried on their work, miners kept digging, children still played outside. And that confused the other races, because when the predators approached a world, everyone else ran or hid. But humans did not. The first shadows of the predators appeared on the horizon of a barren moon, their enormous frames blocking the light, their eyes glowing in the dark, their growls shaking the ground. Entire flocks of alien creatures scattered in panic. Yet a single human outpost stood firm. Inside that outpost, men and women gathered, not with screams, but with quiet voices. They planned, they whispered, they prepared. One child asked her father, "Why don't we leave like the others?" And the father placed a hand on her shoulder and said, "Because running is not the only way to survive." She did not understand, but she could feel that something important was coming. The predators stalked closer, their footsteps like thunder. They had no fear. They had no reason to. For countless years they had crushed every challenger. To them, humans were just another prey, another weak species, the perfect meal. Their hunger grew sharper with every step, but deep inside their ancient instincts, something felt strange. As they gazed toward the human colony, they saw no panic, no scattering, no screams. The humans were simply standing, watching, waiting. This reaction was alien to the predators. They expected terror. They expected the taste of fear in the air, yet all they sensed was silence. The first predator roared, shaking the ground and splitting the air. Birds in the distance scattered. Machines trembled, yet the humans did not move. Their eyes followed the predator calmly. Some tightened their grips on tools, some whispered prayers, but none turned to run. And in that quiet moment, the predators felt something they had never felt before. The galaxy had always believed these beasts were the end of courage, the destroyers of hope. But in front of them now stood a species that did not follow the rules of prey and predator. Humans were small, fragile compared to armored aliens, yet there was something behind their eyes, a spark the beasts could not understand. One predator tilted its head, studying the humans as if trying to solve a puzzle. This was new, this was unexpected, and predators did not like what they could not understand. It made their instincts restless. It made their claws twitch. From the hills above, alien merchants and travelers watched, holding their breath. They expected blood. They expected the humans to be ripped apart. But the scene unfolding below was different. It was as if two storms had met, one of flesh and claw, and one of willpower and calm. And in that tension, the galaxy itself seemed to pause. The beasts of the stars had no fear, or so it was believed. Yet something in the quiet courage of humans made their hunger stumble for the first time. Rumors would later say that on that night the predators hesitated, just for a breath, just for a moment. But that moment was enough to plant a seed. Because fear was not only for the weak, even the strongest could feel it. And soon the predators would learn that humans were not like the others. They would learn that humans were not prey at all. They would learn that for the first time the hunters would have to question what it meant to hunt. And so the stage was set. The humans stood firm. The predators drew closer. The galaxy watched in silence. The first chapter of a new legend was beginning, and it all started with the beasts of the stars meeting the only species who dared to stare back. The night sky over the human colony was heavy with silence. The stars above looked calm, but the ground below was shaking with the arrival of something no one had faced before. The predators were moving closer, their massive shapes glowing faintly in the moonlight. They looked like shadows with teeth, walking storms of muscle and rage. The colony was small, just a handful of homes, farms, and a central hub built from steel and stone. It had no grand army, no powerful warships, only families, workers, farmers, and a few guards with simple weapons. Yet no one left. Even when the warning came from alien allies who begged the humans to run, the humans stayed, their hearts steady. Though the fear was real, from the hills above, groups of aliens gathered to watch. They did not come to help. They came to witness the end. Some whispered that humans were brave, others said they were foolish. No one survives the beasts, one alien elder muttered. They will be bones before the sun rises. But another alien kept staring at the humans and whispered, "Then why do they look so calm?" The ground cracked as the first predator stepped into the open field. Its body was taller than any building in the colony. Its skin was black and silver, shining like armor, claws as long as spears dug into the dirt. Its eyes glowed red, searching, hungry. It roared, and the sound rolled across the land like thunder. Animals in the distance screamed and ran. Even the aliens watching from safety flinched. But the humans did not run. A line of guards stood at the edge of the colony, their weapons aimed but steady. Children were pulled behind barricades. Mothers and fathers whispered to keep them quiet. The predators expected chaos, expected the delicious taste of fear to rise like smoke, but what they found was silence. The leader of the predators crouched low, sniffing the air, confused. There was fear here. Yes, but it was different. It was controlled, pressed down, shaped into something else. These humans were not screaming prey. They were something the beasts had never met before. A single man stepped forward. His clothes were simple, his weapon nothing more than a hunting rifle. His face was hard, and his voice calm as he shouted, "You will not pass here." The predators did not understand his words, but they felt the strength behind them. It was not the voice of prey, it was the voice of something dangerous. The predator charged, its claws tearing into the ground, its roar shaking the colony walls. The aliens watching turned away. They could not bear to see the slaughter, but then something unexpected happened. The humans did not scatter. Instead, they moved together like a single body. One group rolled heavy nets forward, another raised bright lights, and others pounded metal drums to create sound. The predator stopped mid-charge, blinking against the sudden flash of light. Its sensitive eyes burned. Its ears rang with the pounding noise. For the first time in its life, it hesitated. The humans had studied it, not for weeks, not for months, but quietly, for years. While other races hid or ran, the humans had learned. They had watched patterns, tested weaknesses, mapped the instincts of these beasts, and now they stood ready. A second predator crawled from the shadows, slimmer, faster, its body rippling with speed. It darted toward the edge of the colony, aiming to strike a child hiding behind a wall. The aliens on the hill gasped. Sure, the child would be torn apart, but the child did not scream. Instead, she lifted a small glass orb in her tiny hand and smashed it against the ground. A burst of chemical flame rose up, startling the predator, making it leap back in shock. The crowd of aliens could not believe what they were seeing. This was not prey. This was resistance. This was something they had never imagined. The leader predator snarled, circling. It wanted to crush this strange defiance. Its muscles rippled as it prepared to strike again. But in its chest, deep where instinct lived, there was a flicker of something new, something it had never known before. Hesitation. The humans did not look like warriors, but they carried themselves like creatures who had fought countless unseen battles. They did not rely only on weapons, they relied on each other. Every hand had a role, every eye was alert, every breath steady. This unity was not something the predators understood, for they were lone killers. And now they faced something beyond strength. They faced willpower. The air grew heavy as predator and human stared across the field. One side all claws and rage, the other side fragile flesh and courage. The galaxy watched from the shadows. And in that stillness a truth began to take shape. Predators ruled by fear. But humans did not bend to fear the way others did. Humans turned fear into fire, into focus, into strength. And the predators could feel it burning in front of them. The leader predator raised its head and gave another roar. Louder, deeper, trying to crush the humans with sound. Windows shattered, the earth trembled, but the humans held the line, their faces unbroken, their eyes locked forward. The roar faded into the night, but the silence that followed was heavier, stronger. For the first time in all the stories of the galaxy, the predators had met prey that did not act like prey. The beasts were not afraid yet, but they were unsettled, and that was the beginning. The aliens watching knew they were seeing history. They were seeing something impossible. One alien whispered, "They should be dead already." Another answered, "No, they are humans." And below, in the quiet colony that refused to fall, the first contact between predator and human was made. Not with peace, not with surrender, but with a challenge, and it was only the beginning. The night deepened around the human colony. The stars above shone like cold eyes, and the ground still carried the vibration of the predator's steps. The silence was broken only by distant growls and the whisper of the wind. The humans stood ready, but the predators were no longer sure. These beasts had hunted across countless worlds. They had torn apart armored soldiers, crushed machines of war, and reduced cities to rubble. Never once had they felt resistance that mattered. Every species they had ever faced screamed, scattered, or collapsed before their claws. Fear was their weapon, and fear had always worked, but not tonight. The leader predator paced slowly before the colony gates, its massive claws scraping the dirt, its glowing eyes scanning the line of humans. The air was heavy with the smell of fire and metal. The humans stood with their tools and weapons. Calm but fierce, the predator tilted its head, puzzled. It could taste fear in their scent. But it was strange, it was not the same as before. This fear did not break them. It held them together. A second predator, smaller but faster, crept along the edges of the colony, its sleek body sliding through the shadows. It leapt toward a storage shed, expecting easy prey inside. But the moment its claw touched the door, a blast of bright light erupted. Blinding it, the humans had rigged a trap. The predator snarled, thrashing wildly, its confusion growing. The aliens watching from the hills could not believe their eyes. Never had the predators been delayed. Never had they been tricked. "It makes no sense," one alien whispered. "They should be dead already," another answered. "Something about these humans is different." Inside the colony, the people did not celebrate. They did not shout in victory. They simply moved to the next step of their plan. Some carried nets, others set torches, and a few dug trenches to funnel the predators where they wanted. It was not panic, it was preparation. Every person, young and old, acted like a piece of one larger machine. The predators circled, their eyes glowing brighter, their muscles rippling with tension, but their movements were slower now, less certain. The leader predator sniffed the air again, its nose wrinkled with confusion. These creatures looked fragile, yet they carried themselves like hunters, not prey. One farmer stood in front of his small house, holding only a long metal tool. His family crouched behind him. The predator stared at him, its huge mouth opened, revealing rows of teeth. It expected the man to tremble, to drop his weapon, but the farmer's hands did not shake. His eyes stayed locked on the beast. The predator growled louder and deeper, but the man only stepped forward, forcing the predator to step back for the first time. The predator felt something strange in its chest. Hesitation. The smaller predator that had been blinded shook its head clear, then darted toward another corner of the colony. It moved with incredible speed, leaping over barricades. But humans had planned even for that. As the predator landed, a group of children banged on metal drums, creating a wall of deafening sound. The beast froze, overwhelmed by noise. Its ears ringing, it backed away. The aliens watching from above gasped. Children were not prey either. They were part of the fight. What kind of species uses even its young to stand firm? One alien muttered in awe. No, another corrected. They do not use their young. Their young choose to stand too. The predators were confused. Their instincts demanded easy victory, but nothing here was easy. The humans had no great strength, no giant weapons, yet they fought with something invisible, something the predators could not claw apart. The leader predator roared again, this time not just to threaten but to push away its own growing unease. The sound cracked the night, shook the ground and echoed across the hills. The aliens watching shivered, covering their ears, but the humans stood in place. One soldier even stepped forward through the roar, his face calm, his body unshaken. His voice rose, carrying across the field. You will not take us. The predators understood none of the words, but they understood the meaning. It was in the tone. In the unbroken will, this was not fear. This was defiance. The beasts who had never known doubt now found themselves staring into it. Every instinct told them to rush forward, to tear, to kill, but instinct also whispered of danger. It whispered of something it had no name for. The leader predator turned its head. Looking at its pack, they shifted uneasily. Their glowing eyes flickered. Their claws dug into the dirt. They had never seen prey stand so still. They had never seen prey fight as one. The humans moved together again. Torches lit, nets spread, weapons raised. Not with chaos, but with rhythm, as if they had practiced this for years, and in truth they had. For humans did not run from the tales of monsters. They studied them. They learned, they prepared. The predator leader lunged forward, slashing the earth with its claws. Dirt and sparks flew into the air, but the humans did not break. They closed ranks. The sound of boots on the ground, the steady beat of their hearts, the fire of their courage, it was more powerful than any weapon. The aliens above began to whisper among themselves. What they were seeing went against everything they had believed. The predators were the ultimate killers, the end of all resistance, yet here, before their eyes, humans were rewriting the rules of survival. The predators, once certain, were now uncertain, once unstoppable, were now slowed, once fearless, were now beginning to taste something bitter at the back of their throats. It was confusion, and behind it, something darker was waiting. The night pressed heavier. The stars above seemed to lean closer. As if even the galaxy itself was curious, the predators growled low, circling, watching, learning. But so did the humans. Every movement, every breath, every step of the beasts was noticed, was studied, was remembered, and in the center of the colony, a farmer's daughter whispered softly, "They look strong. But maybe they're not so different from us." Her mother hushed her. But deep inside, every human in that colony felt the same thought rising. The predators were not gods. They were not invincible. They were only creatures. And creatures could bleed. The leader predator shifted its weight. Unsettled, its claws flexed, its mouth opened. But the sound it released this time was not pure dominance. It was frustration, it was uncertainty. For the first time in all their dark history, the galaxy's deadliest predators were not sure of victory. And that was only the beginning. The predators circled the human colony, their claws scraping the ground, their eyes glowing with hunger and confusion. They had fought many battles across countless worlds. They had crushed every defense, every army, every wall, yet here, on this small colony at the edge of the stars, something was wrong. Something did not follow the old rules. The humans stood firm, no panic in their eyes, no stampede of fear. Their bodies looked fragile, their weapons looked small, but their courage filled the air heavier than the beast's growls. The predators had expected an easy kill, but instead they were facing something that felt like a trap. And in truth it was. The humans had not been idle dreamers. They had watched, they had studied, every story of these predators, every rumor from alien travelers, every track in the wild, every broken ship found on predator-ruined worlds. The humans had gathered the knowledge like hunters preparing for the most dangerous game. They had written books, shared whispers, even taught their children small tricks. Tricks that now made the difference between death and survival. The predators roared, shaking the air, but the humans answered with silence, the calm silence of a mind already set. At the edge of the colony, wooden barricades stood, but they were not just wood. Hidden spikes lay beneath. Trenches filled with water had been dug, and ropes covered in sharp hooks stretched between posts. The predators did not see them at first, but the humans knew exactly where to stand and where not to. The leader predator charged again, its claws tearing the ground. its massive body moving like a storm. It leapt high, jaws open, ready to smash into the humans, but at the last moment, a net of thick steel cables was pulled. 3 men yanked it tight. The predator landed straight into it, the hooks biting deep into its armored skin. It thrashed, bellowing in rage, but the humans held firm, the cables groaning but unbreaking. The aliens watching from the hills gasped in shock. They had never seen anyone make the beasts stumble, never seen them trapped. It was impossible. Yet the humans had done it. Another predator darted in from the side, sleek and fast, trying to take advantage of the distraction. But the humans had thought of that too. Barrels of thick oil were rolled down a slope, smashing open and flooding the ground. The predator slipped, its claws sliding on the slick earth. It crashed into a wall with a heavy crack. Stunned for a moment, inside the colony, a signal was given. Torches were lifted high. Bright flames roared into the night. The predators hated the sudden light. Their sensitive eyes burning, their growls turned to snarls of pain. The leader predator tore itself free of the net, leaving pieces of metal stuck in its flesh. Its glowing eyes narrowed, its chest heaving. This was not how hunts were supposed to go. Prey was meant to run. Prey was meant to scream. But these humans fought like hunters, every movement calculated, every step precise. A farmer's son, no older than 13, stood with a slingshot, his small hands trembling but his eyes steady. He launched a stone that struck the predator square in its glowing eye. The beast roared, stumbling back, blinded on one side. The aliens above nearly fell silent. A child had wounded the greatest predator of the galaxy. The humans did not cheer. They did not boast. They only tightened their line, moving closer together. Shields raised, torches bright, the colony was alive with unity. And that unity was stronger than any weapon. The predators regrouped, snarling, their instincts burning, but behind their hunger now was something colder, a shadow they did not understand. Hesitation. The humans pressed forward, not with brute force but with coordination. One group slammed drums to confuse the predator's sensitive hearing. Another group dragged sharp stakes into position. A third carried ropes with hooks ready to tangle legs, and all the while eyes never left the beasts. The leader predator crouched low, its tail lashing. It wanted to leap again, to crush them, but deep inside a question formed. Why were these small creatures not breaking? Why were they not afraid enough to run? The answer was simple. Humans had learned that fear was not a chain. Fear was fuel. Fear gave them sharpness, gave them speed, gave them unity. Instead of being slaves to fear, they mastered it. The aliens on the hill could feel it too. Their voices were whispers. They are not fighting with strength, one said. They are fighting with something else, another replied. They are fighting with each other as one, the predator leader roared again. But the sound no longer shook the humans. Their faces stayed unbroken, their boots planted, their torches burning bright. The roar faded, leaving the air heavy, but the humans had not moved. The predators were confused. Their instincts told them prey must fall, but the prey did not, and in that confusion, something darker waited, something the predators had never tasted before. The humans advanced one step, then another, not attacking wildly, but pushing as a wall, their lights glowing, their weapons steady, their hearts as one. The predators snarled, their claws digging deep furrows in the dirt, but they did not leap for the first time. The galaxy's deadliest predators were learning what it meant to face a species that hunted with the mind as much as with the body, a species that could turn weakness into strategy, fear into fire, unity into a weapon. The night stretched on. The colony stood bright against the shadows, and the predators, once unstoppable, found themselves halted, forced to think, forced to hesitate. The humans had made their move, and the beasts of the stars were no longer certain of victory. And in that moment, a truth was born. The predators had finally met something greater than hunger. They had met human strategy. The ground shook under heavy claws. The air trembled with low growls. The predators had regrouped at the edge of the human colony, their eyes glowing brighter, their muscles twitching with rage. They had been delayed, tricked, even wounded, but now they were ready to strike with all their fury. No more hesitation, no more circling. They wanted blood. The humans stood waiting, their torches lighting the night, their shields raised, their hearts steady. They had already seen that the predators could bleed, that they could be confused, that they could hesitate, and that gave them strength. The humans were smaller, weaker, but they were unbroken. The first predator lunged forward, faster than the eye could follow. Its claws cut through the air like blades. A guard raised his shield just in time. The impact knocked him back, his body slamming against the barricade. But before the predator could finish him, two farmers with hooked ropes pulled at its legs. Dragging it sideways, the beast roared, snapping at them. But the humans did not let go. The clash had begun. Another predator leapt onto the roof of a small house. Crushing wood under its weight, it snarled, looking down at the people below. But the humans had prepared. Barrels of burning oil were lit and rolled toward the walls. Flames shot up, surrounding the beast in heat and smoke. The predator hissed, stumbling as the fire licked at its skin. The aliens on the hill shouted in disbelief. Some even stood to get a better view, their eyes wide. They should all be dead by now, one said. No one survives this close, and another answered in awe. But look at them. They are still fighting. At the center of the colony, a group of children huddled close, their parents guarding them. One little boy held a small rock in his hand, his face pale but his eyes fierce. When a predator's head leaned close, sniffing for prey, the boy threw the stone with all his strength. It struck the beast in the nose, a small act but powerful. The predator snarled and drew back, not from pain, but from the shock of defiance. The leader predator growled louder than all the others, its body tense, its pride wounded. Never before had prey dared to stand. Never before had prey drawn blood. It leapt forward with a roar that split the night, its claws aiming for the heart of the human line. But the humans did not scatter. Instead, they closed ranks tighter. Shields overlapping, spears pointed. The leader predator crashed into them. Wood splintered, men staggered. But no one broke behind the shields. Voices rose together, not in screams, but in a chant, a rhythm, a sound of unity. It confused the beast. It made its heart pound faster, for it had never faced prey that sang instead of screamed. The humans pushed back, one step at a time, their strength not in muscle but in will. The predator roared again, slashing with its claws, but every strike was met with a counter, a spear here, a rope there, flames flashing to blind its eyes. Every attack answered with resistance. The fight spread through the colony, predators slashing, humans striking back. The ground became a battlefield of sparks, fire, blood, and courage. One woman swung a torch into the face of a predator, her arm shaking, but she held it steady. The flames drove the beast back, its jaws snapping in pain. The aliens watching could barely breathe. They had heard legends of predators, but now they were seeing a new legend being born. The predators had instinct, raw and unstoppable, but the humans had something stronger, will. One predator managed to grab a human in its claws. Lifting him high, the man screamed in pain, but even as he struggled, he stabbed his knife into the beast's arm. Blood sprayed dark and thick. The predator dropped him, staggering back. The crowd of humans rushed to pull the man to safety, their unity saving what strength alone could not. The leader predator turned, its eyes burning red. It wanted to end this, to crush the strange courage of these small creatures. It lunged again, but this time a group of humans had prepared a trap. Ropes tied to heavy stones pulled tight as the beast moved. It stumbled, crashing hard into the dirt. The ground shook with the impact. The humans shouted, not in fear but in triumph. The sound echoed across the battlefield. For the first time, the predators heard a prey's voice, not in despair but in challenge. The leader predator rose slowly, its body bleeding, its claws cracked, its pride broken. It looked at the humans with fury, but deep inside, something else had begun to stir. Something that felt like a shadow crawling into its mind. Fear. It shook its head, snarling, refusing to accept it. Predators were not meant to fear. But when it looked at the humans standing together, their torches burning, their eyes bright, their chants steady, it felt the truth pressing into its chest. These creatures were not prey, they were something else. The night burned with firelight, the air filled with the smell of smoke and blood. The battle raged, but the balance was shifting. The predators were strong, but the humans' will was stronger, and in every clash of claw against shield, tooth against rope, roar against chant, the predators' confusion grew. Their certainty cracked, their dominance weakened. The aliens watching in silence knew they were seeing history. The moment when the galaxy's deadliest predators met something greater than their own hunger. The predators fought with instinct, but humans fought with instinct and will together, and slowly, the predators began to understand that instinct alone would not be enough. The clash of the night was not just strength against strength, it was fear against courage, instinct against will, and for the first time, courage was winning. The battlefield was lit with fire, smoke rising into the star-filled sky. The colony stood scarred but unbroken, and the predators, once the masters of every world they touched, now moved with hesitation, their heavy steps slower, their glowing eyes darting left and right. They had never known resistance like this, never seen prey refuse to run, never felt wounds cut into their flesh by hands so small. The leader predator's chest heaved, its muscles tense, but there was a weight inside it that no claw could strike away. Doubt. The humans pressed forward step by step, their unity unbroken, their torches burning bright, their chants rising louder. Their fear was still there, but it had been forged into steel. Instead of weakening them, it gave them power. Each man and woman stood taller. Each child's eyes shone with defiance. The predators tried again. One lunged toward a group of guards, its claws sweeping wide, but the guards moved as one. Shields locked, ropes tied, flames thrown. The beast stumbled, crying out. It pulled away, bleeding, its mind screaming with confusion. This was not how prey behaved on the hills above. The aliens watching had gone silent, their jaws tight, their eyes wide. They had seen armies destroyed by these predators. They had seen planets fall, and yet here, before their eyes, humans were doing the impossible. One alien whispered, "I think the beasts are..." "Afraid," another answered softly. "No, that cannot be." But deep down, they both knew it was true. The leader predator roared again, but the sound no longer held the same power. It echoed through the night, yet it did not break the humans. They stood steady, unmoved, their torches still burning, their shields still raised, their eyes still fierce. The roar faded, and in the silence that followed, the predator felt the truth pressing harder into its chest. It was fear. The beast tried to deny it. It snapped its jaws, slashed its claws, but every time it attacked, the humans countered. Every time it lunged, they trapped. Every time it roared, they shouted louder. For the first time in its long life, the predator understood that its dominance was not endless. One young woman, her arm burned and bleeding, raised her torch high and stepped closer to the leader predator. Her face pale but unyielding, she shouted a single word, "Stand," and behind her the entire colony echoed. "Stand!" The sound rolled like thunder across the field. The predator flinched, its eyes narrowing, its body shivering. Another predator tried to leap into the colony from the side, thinking it had found a gap. But the humans had dug a hidden trench. The beast landed, its weight breaking the weak soil. It fell deep, its massive body trapped in the pit. It roared in rage, but it could not climb out. The humans rained fire and stones down upon it, forcing it to retreat into the shadows. The predators had always believed fear was their weapon, but now it was being turned against them. They tasted it in their own throats, heavy and bitter. They felt it in their claws, trembling slightly before each strike. They felt it in their hearts, pounding too fast, too loud. The aliens watching could not believe their eyes. One whispered, "If the beast can feel fear, then they can be defeated." Another whispered back, "If humans can do this, then maybe nothing can stop them." The leader predator backed away a single step. It tried to hide it, but the humans saw. They saw the hesitation. They saw the first crack in the beast's dominance, and it gave them more strength. They pressed forward again, chanting, their voices echoing like drums of war. The children joined too, their small voices mixing with the adults, and the sound pierced the predators deeper than any weapon, for no prey's children had ever dared raise their voices against them. The predators circled, snarling, snapping their jaws, but every movement carried unease. They had fought with hunger and rage, but now they were fighting with doubt, and doubt was poison to them. The humans advanced step by step, torches blazing, nets ready, ropes tight. The firelight danced in their eyes, making them look less like prey and more like hunters. The predators' hearts raced, their instincts screamed to fight. But another voice whispered louder now, the voice they had forced down for generations. Fear. The leader predator growled low, shaking its head as if trying to silence that whisper. But its eyes kept darting to the humans, to their calm faces, their steady breaths, their unyielding courage. The whisper grew louder, and the predator knew, deep in its heart, that this night was different. The beasts of the stars, feared by all, were finally meeting something greater than themselves. And in the stillness between growls and chants, the galaxy itself seemed to hold its breath. The predators had always been the hunters, but tonight, facing the humans, they were beginning to understand a new and terrible truth. They were no longer the hunters, they were the hunted. The night was almost over. The fires burned low, the smoke drifted into the starry sky, and the battlefield was covered in marks of struggle. Claw scars on the ground, broken wood from barricades, blood both human and beast staining the dirt. The colony was damaged, but it was still standing. The humans were bruised, burned, and bleeding, but they were still standing too. The predators stood at the edge of the field, their bodies tense, their eyes glowing dimmer than before. their breaths heavy, their claws dripping. They had fought with all their strength, with all their rage, but they had not broken the humans. They had been wounded. They had been trapped. They had been forced to feel something they had never felt before: fear. The leader predator paced slowly, its head lowered, its tail lashing, its chest rising and falling with exhaustion. It had never bled this much, never faced prey that stood like this. Every roar it had given had been answered. Every strike it had made had been resisted, and now, as it stared at the humans still holding torches, still chanting, still standing in unity, the truth settled like a stone inside it. This fight was no longer about hunger. This fight was about survival, and for the first time, the predators realized survival was not theirs to take. It was theirs to defend. The humans did not step back, they stepped forward. Slowly, carefully, but without fear. The glow of their torches lit their faces, their eyes steady, their breaths in rhythm. Every man, every woman, even every child moved together. One body, one will, one force, the predators snarled. But the sound shook less than before, for it was not dominance. It was frustration. On the hills above, the aliens who had come only to watch a slaughter were silent. No one whispered now. No one laughed. They stared wide-eyed at what they had seen. The galaxy's deadliest predators forced to hesitate, forced to bleed, forced to retreat, and all because of humans. One alien elder spoke, his voice trembling. It was said no one could make the beasts afraid, but look at them now, they fear. They fear the humans. The others nodded, their faces pale with awe, for they knew history was being written before their eyes. The leader predator roared once more, loud and deep. But there was no strength in it, no command. It was the roar of a beast wounded in pride, and the humans did not flinch. They only raised their voices higher, chanting together, their sound filling the night, drowning out the predator's cry. The predators stepped back one after another, their claws dragging the dirt, their eyes glowing with anger but also with caution. They turned slowly at first, then faster, their huge bodies vanishing into the shadows of the wilderness. The leader was the last to go. It turned its head once, staring at the humans, its gaze no longer hungry but calculating. Then it too disappeared into the darkness, leaving behind only silence. The humans stood still, torches burning, weapons raised, until the last growl faded from the air. Then at last they lowered their arms, but not with cheers, not with wild celebration. They stood quietly, breathing heavy, hearts pounding, for they knew what they had done. They had faced the monsters of the galaxy, and they had not fallen. The children broke the silence first, their small voices calling out, and the parents pulled them close. Holding them with pride, the guards leaned on their spears, exhausted but alive. Farmers dropped their tools. Miners wiped sweat and blood from their brows, and one by one smiles spread across tired faces. It was not victory in the usual sense. They had not destroyed the predators. They had not chased them down, but they had done something far greater. They had made the predators fear. They had made them step back. They had proven to the galaxy that even the deadliest hunters could be stopped. The aliens above whispered in awe, their voices carrying through the night. The beasts will not return here, one said. They will remember this place. They will remember these humans, another added. The galaxy will remember too, and it did. Within days, the story spread across the stars, carried by merchants, told in hushed tones by soldiers, whispered by alien leaders. The predators met humans, they said, and for the first time, the predators were afraid. Entire empires listened, their jaws tight, their minds racing. For if humans could make the galaxy's greatest killers retreat, then what else could they do back in the colony? The people did not boast. They rebuilt their homes, mended their walls, treated their wounds, but deep inside, they knew they had changed something far bigger than their small world. They had changed the balance of the galaxy itself. A young girl, the same child who had thrown a stone at a predator, stood on the barricade, her face smeared with ash. Her eyes shining with pride, she whispered softly, "They will not forget us," and her father, standing beside her, replied, "No, child. They will never forget." Above them, the stars glittered, silent witnesses to a new truth. The beasts of the stars, feared by all, had finally found something greater than their hunger, something stronger than their claws. They had found humans, and from that night forward, the predators avoided human worlds, their instinct no longer certain, their hunger no longer pure, their hearts marked by a memory they could not erase. The galaxy spoke of it in fear and awe, a new legend born not of machines, not of empires, not of endless armies, but of humans fragile in body, unyielding in spirit, the species that stared into the eyes of monsters and made them turn away. And so the story spread, across stars and empires, across worlds and moons, carried in whispers and in fear. The galaxy's deadliest predators had no fear, until they met humans.